Well, I love the Pope. He's a good man, Andy Pope. And I can't tell you, you just got to talk to him, and you'll know what I mean. Have a conversation with Andy Pope.
Well, it's another podcast. Just called Picking It Out. Yeah, it's another podcast, y'all. Just called Picking It Out. Yeah, we got the one and only Tom Skerritt in the house. Yeah, and we're gonna be picking it out.
Okay. Right here.
Hey, y'all. Well, you know whose voice that is. And my name is Andrew Pope. And thank y'all once again for tuning in for another episode here. And we've got a legend here on the show today. I'm real happy he agreed to come on the show. We're going to have some fun. This guy's been nominated for Golden Globes and Emmys multiple times. He's won an Emmy. Just a really brilliant actor, I think. I've always thought a lot of this guy and his work. So we got Mr. Tom Skerritt.
Well, thank you.
How's it going?
Going right, one foot in front of the other.
Yeah, that's better than behind. So you get tripped up there.
or pointing upwards.
Yeah, that's even worse, I suppose.
Yeah.
So you're in
keep those feet on the earth.
You're in Washington, you said, right?
Yeah, Seattle.
How's it out there?
Well, it's a little gloomy right now, but we've had some pretty good weather. I think this is the best place to be in the summer because we don't really have humidity like you guys do, the whole West, the whole East. I grew up in the Middle West, so always muggy and hot, and it stays on you at night. And here it's pretty nice.
Y'all had any rain lately?
We don't get much. May get a little rain later today, but that's going to be it for the summer, pretty much.
For some reason, it's unseasonably cool for us right now. I don't know why, but it's going to get heated up. Normally, I mean, your shirt sticks to you when you walk outside here in July, but not that I'm complaining. I mean, it's kind of been nice. It
is unusual. It's climate change, I guess.
I guess so.
I think.
You said you grew up in the Midwest?
Yeah.
What part?
Michigan, Detroit.
Oh, old Detroit. That's a fun place. Did a few shows around Detroit.
Well, it was when I left. I haven't been back there much to know. I don't have anybody left back there to visit.
Nothing to go back to, I guess.
No.
How long's that been since you left there?
Back in the 60s when I went out to UCLA to go to school.
Oh, wow.
Become a screenwriter. Which I still do. I'm still writing. I never stop.
Well, that's awesome because that's one of those things that, I've talked about with people. To continuously be writing every day, like sharpening the pen kind of thing. It's for your mind, for your brain. It does wonders, I think.
Yeah, I often would get so involved and so drawn into whatever I'm writing that I get a job, an acting job, and I'd say, oh my God, I've got to get this writing done. I can't, wait a minute, that's how I make a living out there. So, yeah, I've had those crazy moments where, what should I be doing? Well, both. But first I got to go out and I got to pay the rent.
Yeah. I know a lot of artist friends of mine, they're songwriters too, and The songwriting is really a lot of the love part of it for some of them. Me, I got to have the stage too. You know, I get that, I crave that audience, that feel, you know, that feeling of like you're helping somebody get through something, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a sort of I don't know about helping anybody when I'm in theater, which I used to do. But there is an opening up of a rapport between a live audience and on stage that doesn't exist in the theater or anywhere else but there. The live audience is just one big harmony.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. It really is, and it's sometimes it's the only place you can feel at home, I feel like.
Yeah.
In a weird way, you know?
Yeah, you keep up the work and you get the rapport with the audience that way, you know, and you do it best you can, and it usually works out pretty well.
Well, did you always have a love for acting and, you know, the theater, the arts in general?
You know, I never really did as a kid. I grew up in a blue-collar neighborhood, and I will say the first awakening I had at all as a kid was music. I had an older brother who'd stay home, and my parents were out for the night. And to keep himself from getting bored, he'd play music, and he'd play like some really classical music. I mean, really like Puccini to Charlie Parker to Ella Fitzgerald and you know, some of the best people, and from classical and to popular music. While jazz was not necessarily popular, but he played the best jazz. So I really got all that sense of the dignity of both these forms, both these types of classical music and jazz, which was an American invention, and that was a very specific kind of music back in those days. There's not much of it now. I'm sure there is, but I don't hear it much.
No, it's everything has changed so much with music. Any genre, just pick one. You know, it's totally different world now. I love Fats Waller and old jazz stuff, man. I mean, that's timeless. You know, Ain't Misbehaving. Yeah. I mean, it's
Richie Havens. Yeah,
yeah,
I love that.
So
there's so much stuff that was going on in the 60s and 70s. It was really, really good music. Really good music.
Oh yeah,
I haven't caught up to some of the stuff that's going on now.
I'm still trying not to catch up to it. I guess. You know, back in the 60s, Muscle Shoals was one of the big places that Etta James and Wilson Pickett, you know, all these people were coming to. They really had something going on. That have you seen that Muscle Shoals documentary?
I have not.
It's fantastic. Really good. I think it used to be on Netflix. I watched it when it came out. I think it came out around 2013 or 2014. If you like music and that kind of thing, you would appreciate that. I think it's really good.
I like Willie and all the boys.
Oh yeah. So how did you said it was music was really the first kind of thing that turned your head. How did it go from there?
Around the same time that I was digesting the music that I was hearing and the good taste my brother was sharing with me, though I don't think he ever really knew that he was going to hit me the way he did.
Yeah.
And there was once in the public school, they had creative classes for kids between 5 and 10. And they would have a bus that would take us once Saturday a month in the morning to creative venues so we could experience great genius and painting and all that. And I remember getting off the bus at the Detroit Institute of Art. And the first thing I see is Rodin's The Thinker, sitting out in the front. And I go up and I circle the statue, looking at it, thinking, naked guy sitting on a toilet without a sports section. Grumpy. And that was my first take on it. So you go inside and you see a huge, it had a big open atrium in the museum, and I saw this huge mural painted by Diego Rivera. And the power, even though it was obviously embedded with socialist and communist suggestions, it was the power of the painting that got me. I had no idea about politics. I could care less about that at that age, 7, 8 years old. And it's still in my visual memory. I remember how it looked and the way it looked and the way it moved me. So I didn't take much beyond that, other than your subconscious holds on to that stuff. And your imagination is broadened. The frame of reference for your imagination is broadened by having these experiences that are just moving, but you don't know why. And it doesn't matter, because somehow or another your intelligence is going to hang on to those things. So that when you're older, you say, now I get it. And that's the glory of having an imagination, what sets it apart from other animals, is what it gives you in terms of what nothing else alive gets what we get. And unfortunately, we've lost those programs for kids now. And I think that's really a big, big mistake that's been going on for about 35, 40 years now, where they've taken all these programs out and called them non-essentials.
Yeah.
And any teacher that's listening to this broadcast is going to say, yeah, it's more important than they think. They know that through doing the research, that kids who are not doing well in a particular class improve their ability in those classes by having creative classes, which just simply guide that emerging scary thing called the imagination. It guides it. And we've lost that. And I think it's showing up in this country right now.
Yeah, that's a really good point. We have lost that. I think there's still a lot of creativity out there. I think a lot of the parents just don't encourage it either. I feel like a while back, it was encouraged a little bit more, maybe just for the sake of, hey, you never know what could happen out of this one day, I don't know. It's not, it's one of them things you kind of have to dig around for when you get older, I feel like now. Yeah,
it's where curiosity begins, is in the awakening of an imagination. As a kid, you don't know what to make of these things. I mean, no one's going to change your diaper anymore, So you gotta
Right.
you gotta look out for yourself, and you gotta check things out. Things that are not going to kill you or maim you have to be explored. Because I've lived long enough to know there is no real right or wrong or bad or good. Only thinking makes it so.
Yeah.
And those things are not going to do damage on you. It's a frame of reference. You don't have to hold it. You don't have to love it. You have to know what it is. And that's really what we're missing in this country, I think.
I do too. I completely agree 100%. How did you get into the actual business?
The acting thing?
The acting, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was right out of high school. I knew I had to get out of Detroit. And I can't explain why, but I think part of that awakening to more things than the life I was living. I mean, I have to say, one of those events where the school bus took us down to a venue, a creative venue, was a rehearsal one morning of the Detroit Symphony Orchestra, which I didn't know what that was. And some Italian guy named Arturo Toscanini who turned out to be the great conductor of the 20th century. In his old age, barely able to get physically out to the middle of it. And he was all dressed in white. His hair was shooting in every direction, white shoes, white socks, everything was white. And he just ambled out there, and he managed to get up in front of the orchestra, and he yelled at them a little bit and nodded. Then he lifted the baton very slowly, and he just suddenly straightened out to be about 30 years old. It looked like he was 30 years old suddenly because his posture was so good. And he just put his arms on and ripped the sound out from the orchestra that just knocked me out. I'd never heard such 75 instruments playing all at once, and it was all in one. It just all put it together in a way that I could not. And these experiences don't happen for kids anymore.
No.
But they just said to me, there's another world out there beyond just this factory community here.
Absolutely.
And I somehow or another knew I had to get out. So I joined the service for 4 years and went out to UCLA to be a writer, I thought. And that's another story.
Well, you are a writer.
Yeah. And director. I directed too.
Yeah. You've kind of done it all. How long did it take when you actually first started auditioning, to get that first significant role?
Well, I'll back up a little bit on that because I saw Citizen Kane in a film class. Great movie. And still one of the top 2 ever made. And it was so different, so unusual, so overwhelming, so engaging that I said, I want to write. I set my bar for that. I got to write and direct that. But if I'm going to write for an actor, I've got to know what it feels like. The creative process is what you do on your guitar. You're not going to know what your chords are going through. This is what I love about jazz. You never knew where John Coltrane would go.
Yeah.
Or a great guitar player. They just, And Billy Ray Vaughan. Oh, my God. So you got all of this kind of stuff around you, and you hear all of this stuff. And anyway, it's all feeling. It all comes from that stuff that was ignited from being a little kid and having your imagination guided in some way.
Yes.
So that you trust your sense, you trust your impulses, because it's all informed by imagination. I think it was Arthur Einstein, I think, had said the imagination is more important than intelligence. And it was just true because our imagination feeds our intelligence.
Sure.
And it's one thing to be smart, and it's another thing to be intelligent. The intelligence holds the information. Smart is having a linear view of any one thing that you don't really mess with too much. Anyway, there I am saying, if I'm going to write for an actor, I've got to know what it feels like. So I thought, well, I should do some theater. I should act, and direct, or whatever it was, all of it, because I was getting a little bit of that in college. But the acting thing was, that was scary for me because I'm basically shy, and I'm not comfortable getting in front of people and giving a speech or anything like that. But here was that challenge. It wasn't going to kill me or maim me. The only thing is it would kind of belittle me and my ego and all that, but I had to go through that challenge. And I had to feel what it was, the daring of it. And that's really how it started. It happened that I have talent, which I didn't know, for painting and writing and all of this sort of stuff. But the acting was something that just opened up a whole world for me. Because then some guys come see me in a play, and I know I'm going on a bit, but see me acting in a play, and they want me to be in a $1.98 movie. And I thought, well, hell, I can learn about what it feels like, and only by doing it and watching good actors. Yeah. Well, it happened there were some other actors. One was Robert Redford, another was Sidney Pollack, before he was a director, and that's where their relationships started. And a TV director saw me acting and said, well, why don't you come out and do it? Well, I'm directing a TV show, come on over. So that's how it started. And I'll go on a little bit more by saying that TV director, I thought quite a bit about him. He was really an interesting cat. And I followed with him, mentored with him. Right up until one year, he calls me and says, "Hey, I've got a picture to direct, and it's MASH."
Oh, wow.
So this is one of the great filmmakers that I stumbled into this stuff. Yeah. Robert Altman, and it went on from there. It wasn't that I was looking for an agent or anything else. It kind of came to me. Again, I think a lot of that stuff is being in the right place at the right time.
Yeah, I've had similar experiences to that in the music business. It's kind of the same.
Yeah,
it's all art. You're around interesting people. You feed off of their energy and their vibe, and you kind of find your own somewhere in the middle there over time and experience.
Yeah, you risk it. Take the risk of it. Of doing.
Big time.
I was just listening to Billy Ray this morning, just listening to some things he was going. I just had to shut my eyes and move with it, because it was, I don't know if many people really listen to music the way they, it was unusual because I had been listening to it from when I was 5, 6 years old, listening to great music with my brother. So, it's that, and then Toscanini, doing what he did to my imagination, it went a flight. It just flew away. So I don't think, and if you don't listen to music, you're missing a rhythm that just, we walk left, right every day, and that's rhythm. And you swing your hands and your arms, that's rhythm, man. And it ultimately is freeing if you're alert to that. So you walk better. And I'm getting old, so I sometimes have a little dizzy stuff. I can't move the way I used to, and yet I'm not going to let down. I'm going to keep on moving until it's over. Yeah,
you got to. You got to. Yeah, I mean that's a great philosophy of life.
It really comes. I think it really comes with music. Love of music.
Yeah, and to your point, I don't think that a lot of people do listen to music in that way. When you were describing that, you took me there. I mean, I could see what you were seeing. I could feel how strong that moment was for you in your life. I could tell just by hearing you tell it. That's a powerful thing. People are so tuned out now too. I feel like that's not a good thing.
No, they're more caught up in making more money than the other guy. And I think the minute you get overloaded with a business head, you got to have both.
Yeah.
There's a balance. And I think right now we're just politically and business-wise, we're just a little, we're in not great shape right now. I mean, there's got to be a convergence of both beliefs. People don't understand. You got to talk to each other. You can't continue to point fingers, and both parties are doing that. We don't want to be into politics, but
right. Yeah.
Neither of them are functioning well.
Yeah, I could. I love America, but I could really give a shit about the politics, man. I'm so over that.
Oh yeah.
I just want people. I just want everybody to love each other.
I didn't include you. Sorry, on this email that I just sent this about sponsorship packages.
She talking to you?
It's on me.
What's she talking to?
Oh, that's my wife. Just walking by, scolding my daughter.
Oh, hello, wife.
She just walked by the door. She's too busy just doing the scolding. I'm glad I'm not the one she's scolding, because she scolds really well. Yeah. You married?
Yeah.
Yeah. Kids?
Yeah, married last year. I don't have any, but she's got 3 girls, and they're great. They're little angels. And she raised him, so she raised him right. Going back to the MASH thing.
Yeah.
Did you have any idea, what that was going to be as you were doing that?
Yeah, I did, because of having mentored with Altman for about 5 years prior to that. He talked about things in a way that I just never conceptualized, like how to get laughter from people by doing something that's so boring that you continue to do it. And you continue to do it, and you just start to break into laughing. It doesn't make any sense, but on the other hand, it's saying, I'm going to do this until you kind of reach a point where all you got is a laugh. And it's just what was done with MASH is he had 3 cameras shooting the whole thing and microphones everywhere. And nothing was ever shot that way. And the studio hated the film. They wanted to fire him, but it was so low budget that they had only 2 weeks left, and it was just, okay, let's close it down. You can finish shooting the thing, but we're not going to release it. They just did not get it at all. Oh. But that's part of being too much about the money.
Yeah.
And not the heart. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, you'd look at that piece like the way the audiences did, or the way the reviewers actually, because the only way he was able to get it out was manage to get the critics only to come into a theater in New York for one night, and the next day they just raved about this is new cinema, basically. This is what we should be doing right now. That kind of humor that's done in the face of death and, doctors working in a battle zone. And so that's all of that was foreseeable from my mentoring with him.
Right. Did you watch the series after that?
I watched one show. I don't watch much TV, to tell you the truth. So I didn't really. 11 years it was on.
It was a long time.
Interestingly, the Suicide is Painless, the song that's plays at the beginning and end of it.
Yeah.
The words were written by his then 13-year-old son.
Oh, my God.
Tom came in one morning and had this on a piece of paper, and he read the lyrics.
Wow.
And then, so every time there was a MASH show on, the kid gets $1,000 over 11 years every week. So he made more money than the studio did.
That's amazing. I did not know that's where those lyrics came from. Wow. That's so young to be.
It's so scary, though, the kid would write about that.
It makes you wonder.
Painless.
Oh, yeah.
Because that came from somewhere, man. I love that song.
I've had 2 kids go through 13. I have one right now going through the 13-year-old. They're somewhere else, and it's a lot of depression, highs and lows, and so I think it came from that period of falling into being an adult.
Oh, I see.
That's really a telling story right there. I've never heard that. When you did all the Western, you did like Gunsmoke, Bonanza, you had some guest spots and on a lot of those. Did those come after MASH, or was those before?
All that came after MASH. No, I beg your pardon. All that came after. That all came before MASH. I was doing a lot. Some of those were Bob Altman. Bob Altman directed them, so he hired me to do a small role, because I was more really interested in learning from him about how this new world was going to be in film.
Yeah.
So I know it sounds a little easy when I say that, but it just happened for me that way. I mean, I'm trying to deal with raising kids and not having money. Well, I have to wait for another job, and I don't know when they're going to come along. So there's a big uncertainty in that profession.
Oh,
you know, you're competing with other people. And I didn't really pay much attention to any of that stuff. I just thought if I got to sandbag the hills, if I can get a job doing whatever I can do for the weekend to feed the kids, and then a good, really great job comes along, and I just got a load of them, and one after another. And Alien and Top Gun are MASH are both two of the 25 great films of the 20th century, and it's to mentor with these guys, to work with the directors. Yeah, you watch an actor and you learn from that, but it's really writing and the directing that opens up the possibilities for the actors to work. But it's really the writer and director to begin with all of that. Begin with. Bugs flying around here, sorry.
That's all right. I'm in Alabama, so I'm right at home. I've always thought Norman Lear was a genius. I don't agree with all his stuff, but man, just taking that kind of a risk to do All in the Family, first of all, and then of course having Carol O'Connor and Gene Stapleton. I mean, my God, all of them. Rob Reiner and Sally Struthers. That show to this day, if it's on, I'm going to turn it on. I just think, like, back in that time, that had to be such a huge deal. I know the network got letters and, everybody said that, but that really was a big deal for the business, I feel like, at that time. There's certain guys that stand out like that just, that's, if you would want a mentor, it would be somebody kind of ballsy enough, to go anywhere. Because there's no, it's almost like, I feel like there's no ulterior motives or anything with some of those guys. They're just doing their thing. Maybe the purest form, but you mentioned Alien. My God, we could go on forever and all the stuff, all the movies. The Alien has like a following. It's like a pop culture.
Well, Top Gun 2, I think, is really.
The
original Top Gun is also one of those.
By far.
You got a big group of people wanting to see, but 35 years later, what Tom Cruise looks like 35 years later,
Yeah.
He can't be the pilot that he was. So what's he going to be? I don't know.
He didn't have no freakouts on set or anything, did he? No yelling at nobody.
I don't know. He was always a pretty cool guy. I mean, he was modest, came from modest circumstances and got lucky early on. He was quite young when he started doing a lot of good work.
That was a hell of a movie. That one stands up still. I mean, that's, out of all of them, that or A River Runs Through It is very, it'll get you, it hits you in your heart. I think it does me. That
was me too. I don't see all the things I do, and some I do. I do see them, but I've never been to one that I've been in as many times as I've been to see A River Runs Through It, and it moves me deeper on every time I see it.
Wow.
There's something about every great movie that's just fully engaging of the imagination, where you can go see it a second time and you go on another level and another level and another level. And that's what you take home. You can't explain it. All this creative stuff, what you do on your guitar as you go up, you don't know what you're going to do next. You don't think about it. You don't explain it. You just do it.
Yeah. Very true.
Well, that's where it all starts, with the imagination. It's the daring to take the next step.
Yeah, and sometimes it's almost like you're being led by something that isn't even there. Maybe it is there, but you can't see it.
It's there for a moment.
Yeah, it's little,
you know,
little moments in time, like songwriting.
Yeah.
I feel like sometimes there's stuff floating around in the air and it comes out of nowhere, and it's up to you whether to just kind of grab it and pull it down and make something out of it. And then you're like, what the hell? Where'd that come from?
Yeah. I had a friend, very dear friend, back in the 60s, who, when he was in high school, played the tenor saxophone, I think. And he just, with all 8 fingers he used, and he just wasn't as good as he was on the sax. He didn't have the mouth for it. He didn't have the lips for it. But he wanted to play. And he just slipped over to the bass, stand-up bass, and wound up playing for Chet Baker's band when he was 19. And around 21, he'd gone to New York to work in the Bill Evans trio. I don't know if you remember Bill Evans, but he was a great piano player, trained as a kid to be classical music, and it just became this other world in jazz. And somehow this friend of mine, Scott LaFarrell, changed his 8 fingers to the bass. So where they were playing often with 1 finger or 2 fingers, he went to 4. Ooh. So he was playing with 8 fingers like this, like a saxophone. Can you imagine it? He just, when I first heard him, before we became friends, I thought, who the hell is this guy? It's Charlie Parker on the bass. And he died, he ran into a tree and died at 25. And at the time, he was considered the best jazz bassist, and just.
Oh, I can't imagine. I can't imagine what it would sound like, and I can't imagine how the hell he did it.
It just is. That's genius, Yeah. It's just genius that drives you to it.
I'm going to have to go look that up now when we get done with this.
Scott LaFarrell.
You say he died at 25? Is that what you said?
Say what?
Did you say he died at 25, did you say?
Yeah. Wow. Around 125, 26 maybe, but I think it was that time. He was just rising, he was just becoming, that's the guy, that's the bass player you want to listen to, because he does stuff. And how you get there, I think, in this case, it started with playing another instrument, but he knew he had to be in music.
Yeah. And
the only thing that really he could hug and hold and do something with was the bass. And he just took off with it.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
It's all interwoven, connected, all of it, It's like little pieces of a big puzzle of all of our lives. The older I get, I'll be 37 in January, so I know you're thinking, you ain't old, but the older I get, the more I see this coming together. All of it. Personal things, business things. It's all just right there, and music has always took me to another place. Since the first note I can ever remember humming in my crib, I can remember just feeling that music and it just taking me somewhere else. And you can't even describe, like you said, people don't understand that, and they think you're crazy as hell, and it doesn't make sense to a rational person, I guess, but to a logical person. But it's one of them things. That's the best way you can really say it, I guess. I mean, it can't really be explained.
Well, it's that thing of you start thinking about, you ain't going to be creative.
Right.
You just have to do it, and that's that thing that's getting sort of like, don't mean a thing if it ain't got that swing,
Yeah.
And which Duke Ellington once said.
Yeah.
And that's sort of something you have to take into your life. It has to be something you feel, and you cannot explain that.
No, because that's something else. That's.
I mean, a story I heard not too long ago was Laurence Olivier, who's a great English actor who was being interviewed somewhat like this, and the interviewers asked him about acting in theater. He said, "You have this gift of being able to move people in the dark of a theater. How do you get people to when you come to that point? How do you get the people to cry in the audience?" And he says, "Well, you get to that point,
exactly like compound,
and you don't cry, and they will cry for you." And that's giving the other people, and that's what a good movie is.
Oh, yeah.
Don't give them all.
Yeah.
Don't start out with the end of the picture. Give them something that takes them, brings them in, and say, "I want to see where this guy's going."
Yes.
It's like Citizen Kane. What is this old crazy old wealthy man complaining about? You find out really in the end that was all of his life. Was as an adult was not happy, and the only happiness he ever had was on this little sled called Rosebud.
Mm-hmm.
And the only way we know is that we see the Rosebud being burned up, when the guy died. And you get what the whole front was, where he's having fun and loving it, and then he inherits this wealth. It said a lot that's always going to be timeless, what it said, about be happy. How do you become happy? It's not, money isn't ultimately going to get you there. Mm-hmm. It'll help.
I wouldn't know.
Yeah. I've been there. I ain't now, but when I had working a lot, but it's all okay. I've had that life, and I've had a lot of disturbing times in the course of it, but it's all part of the whole thing. You take the worst of it and the best of it, and it all is a river that runs through it.
Yeah. Yeah. It sure is. And learn from the worst.
Yeah.
That's been a key in my life. Learn from not only mistakes, but learn from why you're experiencing bad things in your life, tragedy that you don't understand. It feels unfair. It's really not, because that's the selfish part thinking. It's not about me. This is about the situation or whoever this involves, even though it may be a loved one passing away or something like that. Our selfish self wants them here still, but that's not how it's going to be. It's not how it's supposed to be. We have to put ourselves aside. I'm still, I lost my mother in May.
I'm sorry about that.
I appreciate that. But I'm still struggling, with that. I do okay most days, but then there'll be a day that just kind of hits out of nowhere. I'm sure there'll be a bunch of days like that, but it's one of them things. We just have to try to go on and understand that I understand she's in a better place. She's not in this hell that we're all living in still. I'm not saying life is just shitty. I don't mean that. I just mean the world, what's going on, what's coming next probably, and all of that. I'm glad that she's not suffering.
Yeah, you just have to, having been here with that, you just have to keep moving. That's the one thing I found out. You just got to keep moving.
Yeah.
We're doing because I'm doing more writing, but I also see that in futures in the visual arts, which is the most influential of all media, movies and all of that. But now movies are not going to be what they used to be. I know what they're going to be turning out will be the same aggressive, hostile, angry films with explosions coming up behind the actor. And the special effects are worn out now. Same thing. So they're losing their audience, but they're trying to get it back this summer. And we just don't function. I don't function that way. And what I do know is the force of it. And the best thing you can do is turn out positive, uplifting stuff for a viewer. Mm-hmm. Let them come to the end of it and say, man, I should try to do that. So we put together a company up here in Seattle that we're pushing out on Stir app, which is owned by Sinclair Broadcasting. And it's all uplifting stuff. We're just getting documentaries. Great glassworker, Dale Chihuly up here. Some documentaries on the beginning of Pearl Jam and variety of things, that we're 24 hours streamlining all this stuff, including chefs up in Canada. One woman chef who goes out and forages in the forest and brings home a whole bunch of stuff that you can eat. And she puts together this great dinner over the barbecue. And so this is art.
Yeah.
And it's just all of it that we're putting out there is stuff that's been put on the shelf because they didn't have any way of distributing it.
Yeah.
So now they can go out there and have their stuff exposed, and they can make a little bit of money off the shared advertisements that are on the show and on our channel. It's called Evergreen, by the way. If you want to watch it, I don't know if you have an iPhone, so I'm sure you can look up Stir app and get it. But it's on channel 284, Evergreen. And I say this because this is kind of the new world. We know streamlining was not here a year ago. And it's just becoming more against Hollywood's ever coming back the way it was before. And that is everything we see and everything we put out there is something fishing from Idaho to the Pacific Ocean on some of the greatest rivers along the way. It's just a wonderful documentary of touring America. So we're doing all of that, and whatever music we can accumulate in the second year, we're just starting our second year with it. But a lot of the music that can go concurrent, kind of, and that just makes itself known on the work on a movie or a film, only because it was the artist who wrote the music, was doing it for him or herself, and suddenly it applies to someone else's cinematic work. It just comes together because the rhythms they both have good rhythm.
Right. I will check it out, and everybody else needs to check that out too. What was that app?
Yeah.
Yeah. What was the name of it?
Stir, STIRR. Yeah. It's owned by, as I said, Sinclair Broadcasting, which is a nationwide. So we're able to show it nationwide.
Oh, that's awesome.
Through our system.
That's awesome. How long have you been doing this?
It's a year now.
That's
a year
great.
This month, yeah.
That's great.
Just 150 hours.
Oh.
I haven't seen all of it, but everything I've seen, I thought, wow, I want to see all of this,
That's definitely up my alley. My wife, by the way, that I was talking about earlier, she freaked out when I told her that I was going to have you on, because Still Magnolias is by far one of her favorites. She's always saying, "Are you high, Clary?" I mean, all the time, like on a daily basis, she says that when she's trying to tell me I'm crazy or something. So that was a great movie. I mean, my mother loved that movie too, and it still comes on. We watched it the other day, actually. Did you enjoy working on that movie?
Yeah, I did. I had Herb Ross directed that thing, and Shirley MacLaine, of course, was in it. But I had done a film with them in the 70s, just prior to doing Alien, called Turning Point. And it's about ballet. I never thought a movie like that could be, but it won a couple of Oscars, nominated for 3 or 4, and had Mikhail Baryshnikov, who is the great dancer. Real nice guy, down to earth, came from Russia. This is how he was brought up. And I remember having a little conversation. I thought, well, I'm going hiking this weekend with some friends who want to come with me. He says, I'd love to, man, but I don't have the muscles for that. His muscles are all, since he was a kid, were trained for leaping in the air. And all this different stuff you get from great artists, talking with Miles Davis. Got to know him quite well toward the end of his life, and
very cool
stuff with exchanges like this, like we're having about the old days, the guys that are gone. Yeah. In his case, we were talking a lot about, he wondered how he got to be as old as he is because of all the stuff he put in his body. And he died a couple of years after that. But all that aside, it's just, we got these things to talk about that make us, these things that we think about, remember, our conversation that we carry, with other people, the exchanges of, you're in the music world and you have, how it is. You go times where, where's my next gig?
Yeah.
I had that for a long time, about 15 years when I first fell into the acting thing. I didn't know when I was going to get a job, and I had kids to feed, So you just keep moving and you get through it. You keep working on your guitar, and any other musician out there that's struggling, you got to make it your own. You got to make it your own. Once you do, someone's going to hear it and say, come on.
Dolly, did you work closely with Dolly on there? Was she on set a lot with you?
Yeah, we all worked together pretty much. And, I had 6 strong women, so I just shut up when I'm around them, and just listen to them.
There'd be no word in edgewise between all them, I'm sure.
You can add nothing as a man, nothing to the conversation.
No, nothing at all. Picket Fences is such a great show, and you actually won you were nominated a bunch of times, but you won an Emmy for your character in Picket Fences, I believe, didn't you?
I did, yeah.
That was that had to be quite a run. How long was that on the air?
Well, that was 4 years, and we collected total, I think, of about 16 Emmys for that show.
Amazing.
That guy has turned out to be the best writer in television ever, David Kelly. He's just unbelievable.
How did you know Toby Keith before you did Beer for My Horses?
No, God, I missed that. That real good guy, man. I just had a good, nice relationship with him. But this happens with other people's in film. They live somewhere else. I live up here. You just don't live in Hollywood the way you used to. They always assume we all know each other. We don't really, because we have families and they're in different parts of the world. But the studios always used to,
You can
signed
August.
Okay, honey. They signed up people to be their actors. They couldn't go anywhere else.
Yeah.
But that's long gone.
Yeah.
This is, you can move somewhere else if you establish yourself in Los Angeles, but a lot of them want to get out of town. Redford never really wanted to live in LA. He grew up there, but he had places everywhere but there. Yeah. Tom, I think, Cruise has a place up in Colorado. That's usually where they stay.
I love Colorado.
Yeah.
That's some different air up in there, that mountain air.
Yeah.
Well, man, we're going to let you hop off here and go eat supper. We call it supper in Alabama. Tell your wife.
Supper, yeah.
Like the Waltons, you know.
Yeah, I grew up with supper myself. That's a modest life like you have. So you never lose that either. Modest life, and
I come from a good family.
Yeah, clearly you do.
I just nothing's ever. I'm just me, you know. I like the authenticity of having guests on here and just having an authentic conversation. That's one thing I like getting across, and that's why I wanted to have you on. I just sensed something about you that would be very genuine and authentic, and I think people have seen that and heard it, whether they're watching or listening, because they can do either one. But anyway, appreciate you coming on, and appreciate y'all listening. Do you got a website, or can people follow you online to keep up with your stuff that you're releasing on the app?
I never get into social media. I'm just too busy to get into do that. So, and we're so busy with Evergreen.
Yeah.
By the way, that's EVR,
Okay.
GRN. All the vowels are all except for the beginning E. But that's got a lot of stuff that you start getting into it to say, yeah, one after the other. I can't watch it all at once because I've never been one that I'll go to a movie once, except with exceptions, but yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's 150 hours. That'd be a long time. Your butt would be hurting after watching that.
We were talking to some native tribes about getting some videos that they do on their ceremonies, and they have some very heartful videos, and it's hard to get it because they don't really trust us Europeans, basically, and with good cause. We make the future by how we treat one another now.
True.
Yeah. Well, I enjoyed talking with you, and I really got a sense of that when they asked about me getting in touch with you, because this is the kind of conversation that's really, you get to know one another, who you're talking to.
Yeah, I feel like I've known you forever already. Just very comfortable.
Well, I really appreciate it, Andy. That we were able to do this. I'm glad you reached out.
We appreciate y'all tuning in to Picking It Out, and we'll see you next time.